Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review. I've got my cup of coffee here and I thought I'd quickly do a book review before I leave the house to meet my nephew in town. And I haven't been in town since January, which is really weird. Part of me is scared going in, also using public transport, but another part of me is also quite excited to see him because it has been a while. Now, I have to apologise for the lighting. I just couldn't get the lighting right today, and there's going to be a lot of sun that is coming in, as you can see here. But let me quickly talk about the book, and hopefully this won't affect us. What is the book? The book is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Now, as you can see here, it's a different kind of cover. This is because it was an advance copy that was given to my husband so he could read and review it before the book was published. Now, he read it first and he had his own thoughts on it. And I saw this in the bookshelf and I thought, I'm going to read this. It is quite intriguing. I was intrigued by the design of the book and also his commentary where he said it's not like another book that you have read. So I thought, why not? I'll just jump into it. And I'm so glad I read this book simply because it was a book that I really delved into this fantastical world of a labyrinth of beautiful rooms and vestibules and grand staircases that seem to somehow flow on from one another. And these rooms were empty, somewhat but may have had beautiful sculptures of different animals and different people that depicted certain scenes. And it just presented in my head a really fantastical, quiet, beautiful place, but also mysterious. It was mysterious in that the waves would come in and fill in the lower parts of the house and it would get swamped. And so in my head, I was thinking of these visions of these, I guess, 16th century kind of worlds and places of crumbling buildings, lost worlds, worlds overrun by water or vegetation, trees. I don't know, I just kept thinking of these medieval type of pictures. And part of it, as I was reading this, reminded me of this beautiful book that I had read by Italo Calvino, I think it was last year, and I did a review on it, called Invisible Cities. And I fell in love with this book. This book just kind of presented different worlds, different worlds, different places, different sceneries, different cities, and it just kind of reminded me of the world of Piranesi. If you had kind of got a mixture of Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities, if you kind of got mixed up, you know, Borges, which I'm reading, Labyrinths, a bit of the Celestine Prophecy, a bit of some occult mixture, a bit of fantasy, then this is what you would get in Piranesi. Now, as I was reading this book, I was intrigued. Because it really doesn't make sense. It's about a character called Piranesi. He is called by Piranesi by another person in the house. The house is this fantastical place. Piranesi lives in it and he thrives in it. He loves the house because it is his entire world. But in this house, there are only, he seems to think, only about 15 people, 2 of whom are alive and the rest are dead. And so there's Piranesi, obviously, and there is another person there called the Other, who is an older person. He has a beard, he dresses really nicely, and Piranesi says every Tuesday and Friday he has to meet the Other and they talk about things. But during the rest of the time, the Other seems to disappear and Piranesi seems to think he gets lost into the labyrinth of different rooms. But Piranesi's character is such a very... He's an innocent, possibly naive, always accommodating type of character, and as you read about the story, you kind of think, you know, where is this going? who is this character? Who is the other? Because the way the other talks to Piranesi seems to be quite abrupt, and also quite rude at times. But Susanna Clarke does not give anything away right towards the end. So you're reading and reading, and it's intriguing and it sucks you in because you really want to know, what is this labyrinth? What is this place? How does it come about? Part of me, I was making up all sorts of different, trying to make some meaning out of this story, and I was thinking maybe it's a metaphor of a different world. Maybe it's a metaphor of our world, but in a different time zone or a different alternate reality, which is the opposite, where people, rather than being animate human beings, are sculptures. And rather than having a whole world of mess of people up on Earth with all the problems, in this alternate world there's less people. They're all, well, there's no one around, there's just sculptures, and it's just a world where you could just be. And so I was trying to make all these kind of meanings from this world, and there were elements, especially in the beginning of the story, where Piranesi would talk about the knowledge of self and the knowledge of the other. And I thought, God, this is sounding like the Celestine prophecy at some stage, you know. But it wasn't that at all. And look, I cannot give any more away, but the ending brings out some of the questions that I had. But I must admit, I was slightly, I don't know, I was expecting a bit more from the ending, but it was very different. I would never have figured this one out. Look, I love Piranesi. I loved the story. I loved how it sucked me in. I loved this magical world, labyrinth world, this Escher type of world that was in front of me, and it just sucked me right in, and I just wanted to be in this world. So Piranesi from Susanna Clarke, I would say I would highly recommend. But if you also want to get into a book about such different cities or different worlds and different places, then I would highly recommend Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities, and I'll leave the review below so you can check it out. Such a beautiful, beautiful book. And I'm currently reading Labyrinths by Jorge Borges, the Argentinian writer. I've only just started, but I'm seeking books that allow me to immerse myself into magical worlds where things are better, when life is better, where we don't have to deal with the constraints of day-to-day living, and just kind of let our minds and our spirits and our hearts wander. So there you go, Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Bye for now.